discussing the budget with the wife. Let me send one final love you.
You never do that to me.
But I do love you.
I love you too.
Thank you.
Episode 4. The Regular Dad. Well, welcome back today. Why are you smiling? You're always in a good mood.
No, I'm not.
We're having to re-record this crap and you're smiling.
That's why I'm laughing.
Okay. Mr. Happy.
Yeah.
Now.
See that black? See the red light is blinking. The red little boop.
We don't have production staff yet, so we're having to fly our own plane.
From like while we sit in the back.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Okay. I was wondering where to go with that.
Yeah, because flying your own plane isn't necessarily.
I'm sorry. We've gotten thrown off. Okay. Today, we're talking about the purpose of budgeting, the benefits of budgeting.
Yes.
And the advantages that are associated with it. Some people like, oh, well, I don't have the money for budget. Mm-hmm. You're the very person that needs a budget. Other people, I've got so much money, I don't need to budget. No, trust me, you need to budget too.
Also need a budget.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I said on previous episodes, I sit on a school board. And we have a few $1 million budget, mm-hmm. but it has to get managed down to the very dollar.
Yes.
And that's just because you have to have full accountability. And so we have a rough idea of how much we're going to bring in. We leave a little bit of margin and then we clean that up at the end of the year, but we base our expenditures on our forecasted revenue. They have to balance. Now,
yes.
You may not have revenue and expenditures and that kind of terminology and different things for a household budget. But if you're, a recent high school grad entering the workforce, military, if you're in college and you're trying to navigate, do I have enough money to go, mm-hmm. To pay for the next semester or whatnot? Or if you're out of college, you got your first job, you're kind of getting rolling on your own and different things. How much money am I making? Most everyone is not aware of how much it costs to live,
right?
Especially today. And it's obscene. But everyone needs a budget. Everyone can benefit from just the safety measures, the awareness that a budget can bring.
Yeah.
You have a very elaborate budget system. Well, I say elaborate. Yours is not overly elaborate, but it offers a great degree of real-time transparency.
That's true. Yeah.
So you know where things are at any given moment. You don't have to sit there and run a bunch of reports, do a lot of calculations, get out the abacus. You don't have to do any of that. Here's where we are. Here's where we're going.
Yeah.
You know what to do. So, but if you would, please elaborate on your process because it is scalable.
It is. Well, and it has scaled.
Yes.
So, I mean, the best place to start is the beginning. And when I started doing this was not out of any kind of, I like choice, like wanting to do it. It was desperation and feeling out of control.
Yes.
And so it was early on after I graduated from college and I was flight instructing, which is what a lot of pilots do to build the experience for the, ultimate goals that they have.
Yeah. Got to have those hours.
Yeah. So you need flight hours.
It's not any different with counseling either.
Okay.
You got to have hours.
Yeah. So
hours.
Hours. Honestly, it's not any different from any vocation. I think you need experience before you start getting the better work. Right. Yeah. So
journeyman electrician.
Right. So I'm making not much money and I'm rooming with 4 other guys in this house. And it's a good group. We had a great time, but my particular, one of the guys was about to get married.
Yeah.
And he had just read a book by an author named Larry Burkett, which anybody who's been around as long as we have probably has heard of in Christian circles. And so I kind of went to him. I can't remember exactly how the interchange went. I think that I was just talking to him about my stress level and like my concerns and stuff like that. And he made some observations. And then I, was open to his help.
Sure.
And so he showed me what
open to his help. That's a novel concept.
Right.
And just letting someone else help you.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
So kudos just for that.
Hey, sometimes I have a smart idea. They say a blind squirrel finds an acorn now and then.
Every now and then.
Every now and then. So anyways,
broken clock's right twice a day.
That's right.
Sorry for interrupting you.
Please no, it's fine. So he had this little book and he opened it up and he was an engineer. So he had like the grid sheet, notebook.
The nerdiness.
They like those. Yeah. So, and he had columns for each of their projected, like I said, I think they had already rented an apartment. They were like getting ready to live their life together. Yes. And so he was getting all these columns put together and
their integration of life.
Yeah. Putting their finances together and all that. And he showed me what he was doing and it seemed logical. And so I was like, well, that's what I'm going to do. So I got a little red binder. I have this binder still. That's why I remember. I still have it downstairs in inbox. It's like crazy. It's like 30 years old. Well, not quite that old, and I put some sheets of paper in there and I put some columns down and I started divvying up my income. And because I was so desperate and focused, and you know me well enough to know that when I put my mind to a task, it's like I'm all in. So I would carry this thing with me.
All in.
Everywhere.
Yes.
Almost like a wallet. Like it had my cards in it and it was like this binder.
It was the oversized Palm Pilot.
It was ridiculous.
The analog.
So, but every time I would spend money, I would just right then and there take the money out, and of the column. And I found that it was helping tremendously. And so I just carried that with me and it evolved as my life sort of continued. And I got my airline job and started making more money. I still had the binder. And then I moved on to, a spreadsheet that I was using and kind of the same idea, columns. Right. And then when I met my wife, and that was my first encounter, that was a challenging time because she has a very different idea of budgeting.
Right.
For her, I met her, we started to integrate our finances and I was like, wait a minute, you don't have a budget? And we got married like later in life. I was 29, she was 27.
Absolutely.
So we were well established in our careers and had a place to live and cars and all that. And I was like, how are you living life without a budget? Because for me, it had become such a lifeline.
Yeah.
And she's like, I don't know. I just spend less than I make.
Yeah. The most rudimentary of a positive budget.
She's like, I just don't spend money.
Yes.
I'm like, okay, that's fair. But thankfully.
So successful, but not insightful.
Successful
approach.
And was working great for her. And she would probably be fine to this day if she'd never met me, because of the two of us, I am the spender. So
you have a knack for procuring certain
I
things.
do enjoy spending money.
Yes. Yeah.
So, so she let me sort of take over the finances and we actually, at that point, we used an envelope, so like a physical envelope system.
Absolutely.
And that was a little annoying to her because she's like, well, when I go to the grocery store, if I'm coming, because she's a physician and she was in residency. So like very short on time.
Yeah.
She's like, if I have to go to the grocery store, I'm coming from the hospital, I don't want to have to go home and pull the money out of the envelope and like see if there's any money. And so we worked through that. There was some friction there, but we worked through that and we ended up actually.
She doesn't have any more time today.
No, she doesn't.
Right. Yeah. No. Once you get out of residency.
Yeah.
No.
So we actually ended up with a piece of software called Good Budget, which is a very handy little tool, and it is Android, iPhone. They have a website that you can use, and it's a digital envelope system.
Okay.
So we were able to.
You can carry it around in your pocket now.
Yeah, and you just
no more notebook.
Take it out. Yep, carry it around in my pocket. I just take the receipts out from there.
How much does it cost a month?
It's $3 a month.
$3 a month.
Yeah,
okay.
I think they have some tiers, but that's enough for us. If
you don't have the $3 a month to put towards this, we have a whole other.
And they may even have a free option. I think they do actually have a free option. It's just, it gives you the tiers are like you get more envelopes to like play with.
Oh, okay.
And then there's some bank account linking stuff that we don't use because The other piece of software I use now is Quicken,
Okay.
which actually is connected to all of our bank accounts and pulls
Sure.
in, and that's where I do balance my checkbook,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know. But it has been very, very helpful. And it's funny, I got some friction from people. Like, one of the things that would happen is we'd go out to lunch, and then the next day that same group of people would be like, hey, let's go out to lunch. And I'm like, I can't go out to lunch. Why not? It's like, because I don't have any money left. Like, what do you mean you don't have any money left? I was like, because the budget says that I'm out of money. So
Yeah. And you could have 40 or 50 bucks in your wallet, but you knew
it's already designated for something. Yeah. And they're like, I don't understand that. How did you have
the money right there?
I had money yesterday.
Yeah.
I spent it on lunch. Now I have no money left.
Yeah.
Like, it's like this. Some people just have a hard time understanding that.
Yes.
Yeah, that money is a finite thing.
I will tell you that the youth of today, between going out to eat and DoorDash and like this meal delivery stuff,
it is.
My
I
gosh.
mean, I use
people will drop some mad money on that.
DoorDash, Uber Eats, super convenient.
$25 to get $5 at Taco Bell.
I love it. I love it. And I use it when I'm on the road. If I'm in a hotel somewhere, we have a set amount that we can spend every day. And
well, that's different.
If I'm sitting in a hotel somewhere and it's 20 below in Rochester, you know, it's like, I don't really feel, even though I have a rental car, I don't really feel like going out. I'm going to go just order Uber Eats. But
yes, that's different.
You can burn some cash going out to eat. And so, so that pushback that I got culturally, even my stepdad made a comment to my mom. This was early on in my airline career. I'll carry my little red binder with me, and I had it out on the table for some reason while I was visiting them in Reno. Mm-hmm. And he made a comment. He's like, Jimmy has it to the penny. And I did. I still do. Everything is to the penny. You know, it's
you do.
So it's actually liberating, because if you like to spend money like I do.
Yeah, you're going to have to dig into that, because to me, you know, I'm like, you telling me what I can spend my money on? You know, listen, I made it. You know, type thing. But
and honestly, I will admit, maybe this is a personality thing, but for me, having something that says this is the structure, right, and within this structure, you are free and clear to do whatever you want and enjoy yourself.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, so I have spending money columns. We have, you know, now we are very blessed to have like a budget surplus where we have like our amount that we put in at the beginning of the month, because we budget monthly. You know, the living expenses are less than what our income is.
Right.
So we have this surplus, you know, so that gives us the opportunity to enjoy ourselves a little bit, all within this constrained structure.
Right. Yeah.
If I didn't have that, being the guy that likes to spend money, knowing myself, because I have the historical data to prove it in my own life.
Right.
That's how I ended up in that situation in the first place. You know, I remember in college, I bought a $250 joystick for my computer on a credit card. How am I going to pay that? I didn't have any significant income. I was working at Target, making $4.85 an hour.
Ooh.
You know, and that's where, for me, that's where I end up. Now, my wife, she's different. She didn't end up in that position. And so maybe for her, the structure isn't as necessary. But for me, it's very liberating to say, you can blow every last penny of this amount right here.
Yeah. And
once that's gone, that's done. But you don't need to feel guilty. You don't need to feel shame. You just go enjoy yourself on this amount right here.
Yeah.
And you know, when I was early on in my budgeting experience, it wasn't necessarily the case that I had that money, a lot of that surplus money.
Right.
But I did have a little, and you know, sometimes at the end of the month, maybe I didn't spend as much on gas that month, and so I went out and enjoyed myself, you know.
Yeah.
And that was liberating. And it was liberating to know that every time I got a bill, it was already budgeted.
Nice. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. That's really cool. Oh. And getting the real-time glimpse, especially if you're doing a software and you have some idea, some degree of consistency. I make about this much. If you take the low side of that, don't overestimate.
Right.
Don't spend money that's not there. Or as my parents would say, don't count your chickens before they hatch.
Yeah. And I mean, you know, we talked about this in the first take, but there's some challenges associated.
First take?
Yeah.
What?
There are some challenges associated with different income types.
Yes.
you know, and
Yeah, you could be commission sales.
right, commissions, any kind of income where it's like peaky, like
Yeah.
it goes up and down a lot, or you get bonuses or something
Yep.
like that. It's
Yep.
like, how do you address that? You kind of have to figure that out.
Yes.
My wife gets bonuses, and we just don't include those in the budgeted amount. We don't amortize them out over the year,
Yeah.
which is a big word for spreading them out over the year.
Yes.
We just, when they come in, and we use them as we need to, often just to put them into savings just in case something comes up. Or if we have a big expenditure we've been putting off, then maybe we use it for that.
Sure.
Other people, it's like 90% of their income is bonuses. Well, then you're going to have to figure out, like, how do I budget, you know, this
Yeah.
amount? And then I'm a contractor, so sometimes during the month I don't get as much money that
Right.
month,
Yeah.
but the next month I do.
Yep.
So it's like, how do you budget that? For us, we've just set, this is the minimum I need to make a month, and then whatever comes in
Yeah.
above that goes into kind of a rainy day fund.
Yeah.
But again, you just have to figure that out. This is an art form, not a science.
Yes. Yeah.
And-
And so it's very hard to put a lot of hard parameters on it, but it's some boundaries that are in place where if you know, all right, well, I have, like we were talking about earlier, I don't have the money to go to lunch, even though I have 40, 50 bucks in my wallet.
Right.
Or $4 or $5.
Yeah.
You know, you can't go to Sonic Happy Hour and get
Right. That was always what it was.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But you know that you still have these remaining expenses to come out for the rest of the month because you
Right.
got utility bills and you got to go to the grocery store and whatnot. That just because you have that discretionary cash or you have something in your bank account, it's allocated towards other things. You know, if you look at that's no different than the multi-million-dollar budget that we run for the school, because we have plenty of money in a general fund, but inside of that general fund are allocations out the wazoo, right? Where this needs to go
Right.
certain places. So they're designations inside of that general fund. In a household budget, everything's kind of general fund. Now you may have a vacation savings account, or we're saving up for a car
Right.
or house or whatnot. And that's fine. That's kind of fund accounting, you know, on the order of something large, of format like that. But just because that money's there doesn't mean that you can spend it.
Right.
And like in our budget, in our world, you know, I do construction. Well, I may get a job that's, by the time I get paid, it's 4, 5, 6 months worth of income.
Right.
Well, we can blow it all, but then what are we going to do for, 3, 4 months?
Right.
Right. So I have a set amount that we draw each month. And then we just, trust the Lord to provide to keep that, hopper full.
Yeah.
We'll draw it down, we fill it up, we draw it down, we fill it up, and we try to be very intentional and reasonable with our expenses. So
yeah, I was, one of the things that I've heard and read online, and sometimes I'll be in like some forum, whether it's like I'm looking for some tech help with good budget or one of the pieces of or whatever, is I'll see people say, well, I just don't make enough to budget.
Oh gosh.
And I get that, because it's like, man, there's never a month where I'm in the black.
Sure.
There's never a month I don't make enough.
Yeah.
But I'm like, my pushback would be, well, at least just start with tracking what you spend and on what.
Yeah.
Because if
you'd be surprised.
Yeah. Are you going out to eat a lot? I mean, can you reduce the mobile phone bill?
Mobile. You want me to call you on your mobile?
Do you need a new iPhone every year?
I'm
sorry.
Did the kids or did Dina hit you up on this? I didn't get the 15 when it came out.
I'm just saying, we all have our,
But the day is young, Jimmy, so
we all have our vices, right?
I don't have a new Flowerty case.
Yeah,
for the
that's
15.
why you can't
Yeah,
get the
that's why.
15 yet.
Yeah.
You don't have a case for
I'm
it.
waiting for the new release.
Do you need a new car? I see
Are you
that.
tracking? Are you packet sniffing my
I
my
remember.
network?
I remember.
I was looking at trucks and Suburbans and stuff last night.
Oh man, I remember like the beaters that I drove, but it was like that was all I could afford.
Yeah.
And there did come a day where I bought a brand new car. I got a loan for it. And I actually didn't pay it off. We eventually actually sold it and bought something else.
Sure.
But I don't know. I just think that it's really easy to write this off as like, and just continue to live under the bondage, because it does feel like bondage when you're just like, I don't ever have enough money.
Yep.
It's possible that you could make some small moves and start getting some breathing room.
Yeah. But the less money you have, and if it's, well, I don't have it, you need a greater degree of clarity.
You need to at least see what's going on.
The less margin you have, the greater need you have to figure it out as a matter of self-preservation. Because if you don't have a lot coming in and you get yourself into a hole,
oh man,
it's harder to dig out.
The credit card holes, and like you said, we'll talk about that some other time. But yeah, debt can be. I use debt. I'm okay with debt, but like in the right context.
Right.
So yeah. Big bullet point is just it's liberating to have a budget. And I would say it's also really helpful. And the second major bullet point is at the end of the year or whenever you want to be able to look at your spending and see what you're spending.
Yeah.
And then you can make adjustments midstream. Money's a big source of shame for people. And I just think that
because there's no accountability that goes with it.
And I think that it's really helpful for your emotions to be able to have some data to look at.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Well, you heard it here first, or at least you heard what we said today here first.
That's right.
Something like that.
Something like that.
We'll see y'all next time.
See you next time.